I think there is a lot to be said about listening to God's soft promptings rather than ignoring or missing the prompts and waiting for the radical punishment or the correction of sin. God often uses signs and wonders when we haven't noticed the softer, more gentle approach. Verse 8 goes on and says, "So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth. And they stopped building the city." That is why it is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. The word scattered is another key word here. The purpose of the city was so that the inhabitants would not be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Ironically, at the conclusion of the story, it is the Lord who scattered the builders from the city over the face of the whole earth. A fact repeated twice in the conclusion. The expression, the whole land, is the third really key term here. The people had left the whole land to build the city in the east. The purpose of the city was to keep them from being scattered throughout the whole land, but to bring the people together in one place, which is not what God wanted. But in response, the Lord reverses their plan and scatters them over the whole land. Remember in the story of Noah, he is given the whole earth as his responsibility. If we go back to Genesis 9 verse 7, "As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it." There is a real sense getting out there has to happen within that translation. The city and the tower was a movement opposite to the expansion that God wanted to do in his design for the world. One thing about this is that we can often do the same thing in churches. We centralize our church. By that I mean we expect people to come to us. This has been one of the weaknesses of the church growth process over the last 30 years. The Great Commission says, go. But the Christian churches said, come to us. I think this passage is a lesson for us. We need to keep the Great Commission at the centre of our church aims, even around the Bend Ministries. We need to keep that in our goals and apply that very, very literally, I think. Go to where people are at. As churches, get out there among people. In other words, as a gathering of God's people, we need to find ways to take our message of Jesus in the community. This is part of where this whole concept of Around the Bend ministry comes from. It's why we're called Whatever Church You Are, because you are in that location. We have no biblical mandate to expect people to come to worship services, but we do have a mandate to go to those who are scattered in ministry. The focus of the author since the beginning chapters of the book of Genesis has been two things. God's plan is to bless mankind by providing them with what is good, and human failure to trust God and enjoy the good that God has provided. That's what's happening in the whole of the book of Genesis. The characteristic mark of this failure has been the attempt by humans to grasp the good on their own, to take God's blessing and keep it selfishly for themselves. Hey, it's still happening. The author here has centered his description of God's blessing on the gift of land. The good land is the place of blessing. To leave this land to seek another is to forfeit God's blessings and good provisions. It is to live east of Eden. Part of God's blessing for us is our relationship to Him through our fellowship. Part of God's blessing to us is sitting wherever you are today. It's called being church. Yep, we're part of the extended church. It would be easy for us to live east of Eden and move away from any responsibilities before us. But God's blessings are for us wherever we are. God's future blessings are for us Are we getting what God is saying to us today? Don't travel east. Don't go to Sydney. No, I'm just joking about that. Don't let your guard down or slip away from fellowship. Don't use God's blessings for your individual gratification. All these things in the passage are lessons to us right now, right here. Bless you.